Since birth control is the latest hot topic, which candidate believes in birth control, and if not, why? As you can see, it's a very popular question. It's a very popular question in the audience, as we can see.
Welcome back to the Ed Show. Last night, birth control became the latest topic to get booed by an audience at a Republican debate. The men seeking the GOP nomination used the question about women's health as an opportunity to lecture about religious freedom and distort President Obama's record. Take a look.
There's a legitimate question about the power of the government to impose on religion activities which any religion opposes. That's legitimate.
There is.
But I just want to point out, you did not once in the 2008 campaign, not once did anybody in the elite media ask why Barack Obama voted in favor of legalizing infanticide.
You recall back in the debate that we had George Stephanopoulos talking all about birth control. We wondered why in the world did contraception, and it's like, why is he going there? Well, we found out when Barack Obama continued his attack on religious conscience. I don't think we've seen in the history of this country the kind of attack on religious conscience, religious freedom, religious tolerance that we've seen under Barack Obama.
Let's bring in Professor Caroline Heldman, Professor of Politics at Occidental College, and Joan Walsh, Editor-at-Large, Salon.com. I have to give the Republicans a lot of credit. They do a hell of a job of distorting the facts and hoodwinking everybody that they didn't start this issue. Joan Walsh, how did it play last night for the Republicans in the debate?
Well, first of all, Ed, where do they find these people? Who are these people that boo birth control? They booed a soldier serving us.
It must have been on cue.
I don't know. They boo a soldier serving us, gay soldier protecting us in Iraq. They boo Juan Williams, a black journalist who needed to be put in his place, and now they're booing birth control. They're on record against birth control. It's ridiculous. But like you, I just sit here and I cannot believe that they are acting as though they didn't want to have anything to do with the issue of birth control. Those mean old Democrats brought it up to trick them when they are the ones making outrageous comments right and left about this freedom. And I really want to single out Rick Santorum, because for the last few days he has been even attacking Salon for an article that we wrote about his views on contraception, saying, I don't want to take away your birth control, ladies. I voted for Title IX, the Family Planning Act.
Sure.
Well, last night he had to go on the record saying, well, yeah, I voted for it, but I didn't really want to, and I really oppose it. So now he's been trapped and outed as another flip-flopper on the Republican side. They are going up the creek without a paddle when it comes to women voters.
It is hurting him. This chart from Talking Points Memo shows Romney's got a big problem when it comes to women voters. And I have to ask you, Professor, is the Republican Party going to get any women to vote for him in November at this rate?
Well, you know, I think the hypocrisy of wanting small government, it sounds like the Republicans only want government that's small enough to fit in a woman's private parts. Yeah, this is going to hurt them with female voters, most certainly. And they need to keep in mind that 8 million more women voted in 2008 than men, and they overwhelmingly, the gap was for President Obama, a 7 percentage point gap. So they are losing female voters. We know Mitt Romney's unfavorable ratings are going up dramatically as a result of his contraception opposition. And in terms of President Obama, it hasn't harmed him at all amongst Catholic voters. So I think that they're really judging this wrong, that they might appeal to primary religious voters, but it is at the expense of Republican and independent female voters in the general election.
So, Joan Walsh, how do the Republicans repair this? I mean, how do they retreat back to a position that's going to be not as radical and not as intrusive? I mean, there's real political damage here.
There's real political damage, and I guess you see some retreat in Virginia, although I do think it's important to say that their ultrasound compromise is really not good for women, but it's great that it's not going to be a transvaginal probe. Disgusting. So you see little bits of retreat, but it's going to be very hard for them to retreat because they've really gone way out on a limb here, Ed, and they've really staked this. Mitt Romney, who used to be kind of a moderate on these issues, his wife donated to Planned Parenthood. Now he's against Title X funding. So they just keep outdoing themselves on the right, and when they try to come back to the center, whoever it is, presumably Romney in the general election, I don't know. He just can't scramble that fast in the summer.
Today, Democrats heard the testimony of Sandra Fluke. Here she is describing a fellow student's experience at Georgetown University. What's your reaction?
This is the message that not requiring coverage of contraception sends. A woman's reproductive health care isn't a necessity, isn't a priority. One woman told us that she knew birth control wasn't covered on the insurance, so when she was raped, she didn't go to the doctor, even to be examined or tested for sexually transmitted infections, because she thought insurance wasn't going to cover something like that. These are not feelings that male fellow students experience, and they're not burdens that male students must shoulder.
Caroline, is that the message Republicans just don't want people to hear?
Well, it should be politically a message they don't want women to hear, but it's shocking to me how open they're being, and you call it a war on women. I mean, when you look at what's happened in recent years, we've got a war against abortion, Planned Parenthood, contraception, a war against the Girl Scouts, congressional, presentation of a bill from Republicans that allows hospitals to let women die if it requires an abortion and the hospital doesn't want to provide it. At the state level, in South Dakota, presenting a law that would allow it to be legal to kill abortion doctors. I mean, this is something that's happening at all levels, and it doesn't look like they're going to pull back, which can only benefit the Democrats.
Caroline Heldman, Joan Walsh, thank you so much for being with us tonight.